And it is working. That is beautiful. Okay. Welcome, Wargamers, one and all. We're trying a new layout this week, and we've tried to put the chat up as well so that people can, if you're watching this back, you can at least see who we're talking to, what they're saying, rather than us just talking to potentially nobody. So on the Hangout tonight, we've got Michelangelo.
Hello.
We've got Mr. Pink.
Hi, guys.
And myself, Sam. So there's just the three of us tonight. Phil was going to join us, but we've been really busy sorting out the studio, building a wall, building a really nice wall, the greatest wall. It was all Phil's work, to be fair.
I was going to say, when you said we, do you mean Phil?
Yeah, Phil built a wall and I stood and watched. John Booth is there as well. John Booth actually turned up and helped as well, and did pretty much more than me and Pink together. And Pink helped as well. It was a joint effort, but me and Pink didn't do much.
It was more that we weren't trusted with anything, wasn't it, Sam?
Yeah.
Phil was there as the responsible adult, and then John was the next closest thing to that, and then it was me and you down somewhere below, like the dogs.
Yeah. So. Generally what happens is Phil ends up telling me and Mike off, because we're like school kids, basically. We start bickering or we start saying stuff or whatever. And on that day, building the wall, it became me and Pink. And again, it's just like getting told off by Phil. It's like, stop doing that, stop doing that. Me and Pink just giggling away. Can't help it. Okay, so what have we got? In the chat today, let's try and go from the top. Let's expand this wonderful chat menu. So we've got Joshua Duell, Jonathan Shaw, Rory Grant, Dark Elf Dave, Tedious Payload, Rattel Mike, Kablams, Coyote, Rory Grant I've already said, Timothy Stansbury, Mr. Pink, who's here, Johnny Rockstar, who's saying the chat is in stereo, which is a bit, I don't know. It's the same chat as we always have, so I'll have to look into it. John Booth, just John, who also has man flu and has lost his voice. And Stu Rat, who's going to bully Sam. I think people can make up for that, no problem at all. We've also got Noodles, Excessive Magnetization, Turrican, Ryan Benfield, and Liam has just joined us with a lovely Magnus. So there's quite a good crowd again, straight away. So what we're talking about tonight, I haven't told anybody on the Hangout. I haven't really gone into much of this in detail. I've asked a bunch of you on the Facebook group about what topics or questions we can go through. And if you're not already on the Facebook group, the link is in the description below. So just head over to there. You can also ask questions and topics on there in future. So we're going to go over the latest 8th edition stuff, and there's loads to get through. And we're also going to go through some topics from that Facebook group. Kiblams saying, very cool new layout, needs a little polish though. Yeah, no problem, Kiblams. I mean, the idea is that it's a live chat, and that's what we're doing with it. It's not going to be the fanciest of things. This was done in about half an hour, so learning new software is always a joy, and I'm not too fussed. I'd rather just chat. Piper Malik has just joined as well. Welcome. I meant I can see the chat on the screen and at the side, like I can see it twice. Stereo. Get it. Yeah, it's because I'm special. That's all right, Johnny. That's me. But yeah, the idea of having this chat up on the side is so that if you're watching the stream back, not live, you can at least see all of that. All right, we're going to start. Do you want to go through some topics first, or shall we go straight on to the 8th edition, start with Primaris? What do you want to do, guys?
Do a topic first.
Topic. Let's go with the topic then. What have we got? Well, that one's about Primaris, so we'll leave that till afterwards. We've got one from Mark Tilbury, and that is, in your opinion, does the new play types make it easy to get someone into the hobby and game, or would you say to try 7th first? So,
no. I say 100%. The new way sounds so much better than 7th did. If you ever showed anyone the 7th rulebook, not the little one that came with like Dark Vengeance, but the proper hardback one,
yeah,
you could just see them glaze immediately. There was way too much to explain.
Yeah.
But.
Mike?
Definitely. The 8th is going to be so much easier with the different ways of playing. That would, like, you've got the match play, and then you've got the quicker point system rather than adding upgrades on. Mm-hmm. And the rules that we have seen so far, it's also leaning towards it's going to be so much easier for any new person coming into the hobby to play a game.
Yeah, I think that was the same thoughts for me. I think maybe if somebody knows 7th like the back of their hand, they could teach somebody very easily how to play. But unless you're going to be sticking with 7th, I think it's going to be outdated very quickly. And on top of that, it's a lot harder to learn anyway. You can probably teach somebody 8th a lot quicker than you can bother doing 7th. And it's not long either. We've not got long to wait for 8th. So I would say to wait for new players.
The easiest way to compare it to as well is when they did Age of Sigmar, is if when someone came in to play 8th edition fantasy, it's like trying to explain that to them was quite difficult. But then Age of Sigmar is 4 pages. I'll give you a quick game now, and it was that's really easy to play, which I think is the way this is going to go now.
Yes, most definitely. And Age of Sigmar was... I mean, you didn't play much of Fantasy before, did you? You played a bit.
I played a few games, but I was still trying to bend my head around it when Age of Sigmar happened.
But you did normally used to play... you had to almost go to fantasy school to learn how to play. Fantasy Academy.
Definitely.
And pretty much anyone can just start playing now, so... Yeah, that's that topic then. Quickly go down the chat. What else have we got? Space Marines. That's fair enough from Kablams. I just used to seeing you guys in such a professional setting. What is not professional about this setting, Kablams? We've got the chat, we've got the lovely faces on screen, and we've got our lovely URL on the bottom right-hand side. I think it's extremely professional. Maybe not to your standards, Kablams, but you do quality stuff, so we're always a little bit below you. Turrican, try 7th. Are you mad? Yeah. Maybe not mad, maybe just want to try something different. What would you guys like to have seen if 8th wasn't being released? I think we've lost Mike.
I was going to say, he's just doing his mime impression. No.
Yes. Go for it then, Pink.
I think it would have just been some rebalancing. I quite enjoyed the 7th rules. I think we were all very familiar with them, to be fair, by the end.
Yeah. So
it wasn't really a problem for any of us. But I think there really was. I kind of got sick of it being a bit, either being the sort of the battle demi company or being Eldar jet bike spam and stuff like that. There was a few things you think they could have probably just fixed. But
I think that was it, and they've done that as well in 8th edition, really, haven't they? At the same time.
I'm hoping. I'm optimistic. I'll be optimistic for now.
James Westwood's turned up as well. Welcome, James. Made it like the new layout, guys. Thank you. We're just trying something new. We'll see how it happens. Mike's instantly left, so I don't know whether it's his connection or this new software kicking him out. We'll just have to see how it goes. If Pink leaves me, we might just quickly switch over back to Hangouts, but we'll see how it goes.
You've been abandoned by Phil and now by Mike, so...
It's just you left to leave me now. It's all right. I'll get Rachel from the other room and I'll get her to sit next to me, and that way we're definitely going to be okay.
And your views will go up as well.
Yeah, the views will go up. People love Rachel more than any of us, I think. What else have we got? James Westwood, yeah, so made it, done that. What else have we got? Papa Smurf and his cupcakes. That's what you would like to see if there was no 8th. That's fair enough. James Westwood, eye candy over polish. Yes. Okay, awesome.
Take that as a compliment.
Yes. Phil, can you contact Mike and just see if he's having problems or whatever, and me and Pink will just get on with this. So let's go on to the first topic. Oh no, he is back already. Cheese and bread, as Mr. Viking would say. Let in Michelangelo.
Hey mate.
Sorted. Can you hear us, Mike? Oh, I'm just going to carry on. Right, Primaris Space Marines then, Pink.
Yeah.
So what has happened?
So basically they've dropped us not only the stats, but a bit of the more background about where these Primaris Marines come from. And I guess importantly, the fact that everyone's going to have access to them. So they've even said Dark Angels, Blood Angels, Space Wolves, because there's a little bit of wondering whether or not we'd actually get that when they said that certain chapters might not react well to them, and how would it take to certain chapters' flaws. Now we lost Mike again.
It's fine.
So, and I guess, do you want to go through the stat line, or?
Yeah, I mean, so the biggest one from a Space Marine was they've got 2 wounds and 2 attacks. So I think a lot of people have seen the updates. It's more about what we think.
Yeah.
could go alongside that, and everybody in the chat as well, let us know your thoughts as well. But 2 wounds, 2 attacks, they survive better basically versus small arms fire. They're still going to die as quickly against the large weapons like las cannons and things like that. The other thing is they've got a bolt rifle rather than the bolt gun. So the bolt rifle is a 30-inch range and it's got -1 AP. So that's definitely going to be good for picking off stuff.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to make them more well-rounded. So they'll be able to deal with most troops from pretty much every faction. And they also said that they can take out some lighter vehicles as well. Anything smaller than a Gorkanaut was a 5 or more to wound it, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same. It's exactly the same sort of stats on the rifle as it is with the bolt gun. You just got 6-inch extra range, and you've got an AP -1, which the other one obviously has nothing.
Yeah.
So it's fairly standard fare, and like they said, they were saying that you're still going to take your tactical squads at the moment, at least, because this intercessor squad doesn't actually have access to any special or heavy weapons. But we've all seen, I think, now the pictures of the Primaris Marines with the new plasma guns, and they look amazing. They look absolutely sweet. But you see that this is just the start. And they've also given us the little bit of the rumour at the bottom, or rather a confirmation. There's going to be new vehicles coming. There's going to be a new dreadnought coming. I can't wait to see that. I think the dreadnought's going to look boss.
Yeah, that's called the Primaris Redemptor dreadnought, and I don't know what they're going to do with it. Whether it's going to be like a Dread Knight, Grey Knight style, with a giant Primaris sitting on the front of it, or maybe it's going to be like a normal dreadnought but a supersized one. We'll see.
That would be pretty cool.
Inviting Mike and see if he can get in. Are we getting there, Mike?
Bless him. No, I think the main thing to say really about the stats is I kind of thought this is where Space Marines would come in anyways, with the whole 2 wounds. And I think a lot of people, apart from the 30-inch range, thought this is where the bolt gun was going to come in on stats as well. So I personally feel that what they're doing is slowly phasing in the Space Marines without saying your current collection's completely useless now, which of course it isn't, because you can keep using the old ones.
Mm-hmm.
And for a while, for at least half a year to a year or so, I think people definitely will. But I think you'll get to the point where if you're a new collector, you'll probably just start using Primaris Marines over the standard ones. I mean, we know from the plasma guns there's definitely going to be a special weapons squad. But interestingly, they're going to play like the Heresy Space Marine squads by the read of it. So like this squad will just have bolt guns, the other one will just have plasma guns, or just have special guns.
Yeah, I mean, background-wise, they've been in terms of the story. There's been a lot of Michelangelo settings where he's struggling. 1 second, bear with me.
Oh, Turrican's written something about Primaris Terminators. I hadn't heard about this.
Go on, and you read it out while I deal with.
Oh no, literally he's just saying. I think he said it's the most stupid concept ever, which, you know, fair enough. I would wonder how you get a Primaris Dreadnought at this point. I mean, it's someone who's literally just been made, walked outside, and immediately been hit with a battle cannon shell and put straight into a Dreadnought. So I don't know. Perhaps it's just more a new model of Dreadnought. A bit how, like, you've got the box dreads in 40k, you've got the Contemptors back from 30k. Perhaps we'll see something looking a bit more like a Contemptor, and they won't be relics, they'll be the new standard now.
Yeah.
So
there's been a lot. What I was going to say is there's a lot of up and down on the internet, on Facebook, about whether this is a good thing, whether it's a bad thing. One of the arguments in particular was that it was going to be replacing Space Marines without. Is that you typing?
Yeah, sorry mate. Is it coming
Sound like
up?
Rachel's on the chat. It was going to be replacing Space Marines, but very cheekily doing it.
Yeah.
So they're just kind of putting out new models and doing it that way. Just chat to people in the chat as well. You don't need to type to them. That's the whole joy of this. Just talk to them. Just interrupt me and chat away to them.
I was just seeing that Jonathan Shaw there was saying of the rumoured box contents, what before perhaps we thought it was just a Space Marine versus sort of Nurgle box set, and there'd be some Primaris included in there. It perhaps looks like every Marine in there from the Loyalist side is a Primaris. You might have the Assault Squad, you might have the Tactical Squad and a Devastator Squad, and then the Captain. And we've already seen pictures of the captain because it's the guy with the red and white striped face.
Yeah, they've
in all
confirmed
of
that.
the Primaris pictures. And
Harry
he looks...
Painter's just joined the chat, and he was messaging me on Facebook as well earlier because he'd seen it straight away that it was on a 40mm base compared to the rest of them, which were on 32. And then it had been asked on the community page, and somebody had confirmed, the Games Workshop had confirmed it, saying it is from another kit, and it's just been chucked in there with the picture.
Yeah.
And that was part of what they were saying as well, actually. So what was it? Multiple types of Primaris Marines and the vehicles on the way, basically. They put that in the FAQ. What else was there? So the actual Marines, they've got Mark 10 armor, and it's a mix of Heresy, Plate, and the new stuff. So at the end of the Heresy, Gilliman's obviously gone. I need to sort out some sort of future-proofing, and you, Mr. Mechanicum, my friend, can make these for me in secret. And basically, when he's turned up 10,000 years later, these are all ready in the time of need. I think, like you were saying before we came live, they've not been ready for a while. All these other times of need, so there must be pretty dark days ahead of us fairly soon.
They've been refusing to release them until Gulliman woke up and paid his bill, by the looks of it.
Yeah. I like the word commissioned as well. It's like if you commissioned, if you had a commissioned painter painting up all of these Primaris Marines, how long would it take you to get them done? Definitely less than 10,000 years. So he was after payment before he was going to let them go.
Yeah.
What else was there? So the heads and the shoulder pads are interchangeable with the current range.
That was a good move because, I mean, they've got so many upgrade sprues with some really nice looking bits. And let's be fair, if you have a look at a Marine model, you never thought it was the head or the shoulder pads were too small. Definitely not the shoulder pads.
Yeah.
It was probably the legs and the arms, and those are the things that they're now increasing in size. So. And
when Gilliman came out, the first thing I thought was he's got a tiny little pinhead. But now it kind of makes sense because the armor is bulky again. The heads on the Primaris Marines are going to look a lot more similar to the Gilliman proportions. I was looking at like a Space Marine and thinking Gilliman's got weird proportions, but compared to a Primaris, it's probably perfect.
Yeah. I wonder if they'll sort out that thing as well. I'm just going to try and find a picture of one of them where actually, if you look the way they're standing, there's this big wide bit at the bottom of like where their legs actually go out sideways. If you look at Marine, they couldn't actually stand up straight, so they sort of squat walk like John Wayne.
Let's go through some of this chat actually. Actually, no, before that, I want to talk about hands. That's a weird one. Just a random hand conversation. But they said they weren't gonna. You could use heads and you can use shoulder pads, and they said that legs, torsos, and arms were not going to be interchangeable. But I'm hoping that hands and weapon sizes should be, because even if they don't have things like Devastator squads as Primaris models, you could use Devastator weapons and arms and hands and put them onto the Primaris kits.
But they're coming out with new weapons, like you've seen those new plasma guns. They've made all of the... And to be fair, if you find a Space Marine, I don't know how well this will show on here. Let's have a look.
Yeah.
But his gun is absolutely tiny, actually. If you have a look at it, it really doesn't look that impressive. And the new ones with the sort of the new rifles look a lot more beefier, and the new plasma guns as well look beefier. So you might find actually the hands aren't sort of cross-compatible, but it's because they're going to bring out new stuff.
Yeah, and again, Harry Painter, he was saying the Forge World underslung weapons would work, or may work. So that might be worth looking at. I think the bigger weapons are definitely going to be usable on them, but I wasn't thinking bolt guns. I was thinking more like weapons like swords and axes and things.
Oh, cool, yeah.
Because they're all varying lengths anyway, and I've just got loads of really cool weapons saved up for a project, and this is one that's, I think, worth using them on. Right, let's go down the chat a little bit and see what we've got. So I'm going to go back through it, and then we'll finish off the Primaris Marine talk. Where did we get to? I think there's a lot of talk about Mike disappearing and coming back. He's struggling with his phone, trying to get the settings to work, so I think he's going to leave it now. He's just texted me saying he'll try one more time, and it's still not working. So we'll have to try it. Like I said, we've done this 20-30 minutes before the stream. We haven't had enough testing to see how it all works. We just wanted to try and get the chat so that everybody could see what was going off during these live shows. And if you're new to the chat as well, say hello. If you've never joined in before, just feel free to say hello and join in. Right, so bigger targets for the Eldar. That's obviously pointed at Primaris Marines. My guard is still going to hose them down with lots of laser pointers, says Ryan Benfield.
Yeah, they're still the same toughness 4 and still 3-up save.
Yeah.
So.
James Westwood, I'm happy Primaris Marines aren't a new standalone force and that they can be integrated into existing armies. And that was certainly the right call, which it is. There's a lot of people who have got Space Marines that obviously don't want to replace them all with Primaris. And they can quite happily grab a unit and put it in their army. He's still trying, isn't he? Bless him. He's definitely got determination. Oh, it's Phil. It's Phil.
Oh, Mike, you've aged bad.
Mike, what happened to you?
I've just turned into Phil.
Oh, wow.
I decided to be more Phil.
Phil's really not very well either, so this is definitely a presence and a half. So thank you for joining us.
I just thought I'd come along and say hi. I'm manning the chat, but I thought I'd pop in and say hi. I'm a little bit poorly. I'm not quite sure 100% how much you'll get of me, but let's go for it.
Okay, that's good. We're going to get more people watching now just to see the beards. So yeah, definitely the right move, having people available to just add a unit into their Space Marine armies. The other option is, of course, people who wanted full true scale Marine armies can now do that. You can just buy a whole army of them and do true scale. And then you've got the third lot, which is people who want to start a whole new army as Primaris and just play them as Primaris Marines, which is myself. So
I think that's how I'd go. I'd definitely just go with, I think, starting a new chapter. But I'm not a huge Marine player. But I do have some original Rogue Trader Marines, and you put those alongside today's Marines, or rather yesterday's Marines, and they look ridiculously small. And it's just time, isn't it? You know, those models are outdated. That's the thing, and it's painful no matter what. People have got huge collections, and it's going to be, you know, painful, I think, for GW to move everyone across no matter what. So they seem to have found something that's something in the middle. People can take them on and bring them into their armies, or they can just start fresh. And I think, to a degree, you could probably start a Primus one fresh and still field your standard-sized Marines as a separate army. Just use this as an excuse to start a new chapter if you don't like the idea of mixing them in with your new ones.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was... I mean, you've been... You know how long I've been waiting to start a 40k army, and these came at just the right time.
You start a new one every week. I don't know what you're talking about.
I haven't for a while. I've been on the Age of Sigmar train for so long, and I've been waiting for a 40k army, so I'm definitely doing Primaris now. I've settled on the army. I just need to settle on a chapter, which is the next choice. I'm going to keep going down this chat. We have... where are we up to? Primaris seem like this is from Rory Grant. Primaris seem like an anti-troop and a bit of a tar pit unit, less flexible than the standard tactical without specials and heavies. That's pretty much what they were saying. They're expensive. They're not going to do the same job as tactical Marines, so Space Marines are still going to have a use. I think as soon as they release these different Primaris unit types, then they will patch in the gaps that they're initially going to have.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the tar pit thing's an interesting comment because they were arguing the ability to remove yourself from combat and allow other units to shoot into that unit there means the concept of tar pit's long gone, isn't it? So we'll see. We'll see whether that works as a tactic. I think they're going to be hard hitting without a doubt. Certainly, and the 2 wounds is going to make them very resilient, isn't it?
I do wonder about that, though, to be fair, because if anyone's ever seen just like tactical Marine on tactical Marine combat, it's just like a slap fest. You only hit on like half, you wound on half, and then only 1 of 3 of those goes through. You're lucky if anyone dies.
Yeah,
yeah, I completely agree that if you can just now retreat and then just shoot them with a different unit, then perhaps tar pits just don't really exist as such anymore.
Yes, let's. So we've got a couple more people in the chat. Dark Artisans joined. We have Sean Blake popped in as well. I think Sean will be happy to know. I'm pretty sure we're going to have Sean from Blue Table Painting in again on Friday. He's going to join us for a hobby hangout, so he won't be on the video, but he'll definitely be down. That's just reminding me because it's Sean. Who else joined? Vengeful Jan, that was the other person that's just popped up. We've been going for a little bit. We're trying out new technology. It's definitely got some bumps, but trying it. We'll see what happens. Turrican Deathwatch will be awesome under the new rules. Split fire combis. Yeah, that's what I was saying the other day. It's going to be ridiculous how many new units are going to be used now. Right, let's go on to the next bit then. So think that was pretty much everything to do with Primaris. The fact that you can use them in any chapter as well was a nice thing. You can choose a faction keyword and put it in your army. The other thing was the enhanced gene seed, which was a question from Chris Reed. So he's the local Games Workshop guy, and he asked that question, which was, as it was mentioned on Monday about the Primaris Marines using existing gene seeds and it reacting differently to the flaws, I'd like to see your take on that. Will this mean fully angelic Blood Angels, or perhaps super gossipy Dark Angels and Space Wolves that are allergic to dogs? So what do you think, Pink? What's going to happen with this enhanced gene seed? What could happen?
So I would like to see if they would be willing to go that far and say that like a Primaris in Blood Angels, for example, is either like full Death Company, for example, or is just really affected by the Red Thirst, so as like a buff version of Furious Charge. But I think realistically it's probably going to be more just a fluff sort of point, because otherwise it sort of forces you down a very specific way of playing the Primaris, and they've already said that you can use it for your full army if you want.
Yeah.
So I don't think you'll shoehorn people too badly with it. I don't know what you guys think.
I think they could still go either way. In the past, there's always been, I think there's a list somewhere online showing you the percentage chance of a Space Marine having some sort of mutation. And I think Ultramarines were one of the lowest for having a mutation, and Space Wolves and Salamanders were at the highest part of that chart. So even though Ultramarines they had like a 90% chance of being pure, there was still that 10% chance of them going wrong and having some sort of issue. And I think although it's an enhanced gene seed, there still could be a chance of something going wrong. So you might find that there will be some super Wolfen from Space Wolves, or there might be some Blood Angels that suddenly go full Black Rage and just become full-on vampires with mutated wings coming out the backs and stuff. I think that's definitely something they could include. And they could do the opposite way, where they do like the full angelic version of Blood Angels. I think they've got a bit of room to play around with it and see what happens. That's the whole bonus with gene splicing, I suppose.
Well, the bit that I'd love to see them do, and I don't think we will see it, is it just says that it was enhanced gene seed that they had on Terror on Mars, but technically they would have had it from the Traitor Legions as well.
Yeah.
Before people went heresy, I'm guessing. I don't know if actually. I've seen someone else mention that maybe it was what the all the Space Marine Legions have to give like a small amount of their gene seed for purity testing each year to Mars, and actually maybe it comes from there instead. But if it's the pre-heresy stuff, then actually you could have some sort of like either sort of like World Eaters or Iron Warriors or something like that, and that would be really cool.
What do you think, Phil? Because you've read a lot of the Horus Heresy books without giving away any spoilers, because Michael Miller's saying, how did Cole get hold of pure gene stock, considering the only ones available for production are under lock and key from the Custodes, and the only person who's ever been allowed in was Corax.
Yeah, I mean, Corax is allowed in the Heresy story, isn't it? I mean, we don't know what happened after Heresy. You know, you've got the 2,000 years where the Primarchs were still running around. You know, you've got the Beast Arises, which takes place in 32nd millennium, doesn't it? So that's 2,000 years later, and Primarchs are still running around, and there's not a lot of fluff to say what happened in that period. I don't know how long Guilliman was around before he was taken out of action. But, you know, it could be 500 years, it could be 200 years, so we just don't know. So we could assume that if Guilliman assumed control of the Imperium, which he pretty much did at the end of the Heresy, didn't he, then surely he could pretty much grant access to whoever he wanted to that pure gene seed. Yeah, I mean, the other point as well, which will be quite interesting, is the Alpha Legion, if I remember rightly from one of the Heresy books, had the most stable gene seed because they were the 20th Legion. They had no mutations, did they?
10%, that's what I was saying. They had a 90% pure gene seed.
Well, Alpha Legion or Ultramarines.
Ultramarines. Did you say Alpha Legion?
Yeah, I'm talking about the Alpha Legion were the most stable.
They were the youngest, weren't they? So
imagine if they were all made from Alpha Legion.
Maybe that's
that's why Alpha Legion comes back into the fold.
Yeah, and maybe come back as a loyalist. The bargain. Well, you can definitely become a loyalist if you give us all of your gene seed. There we go. That's how they got the gene seed, Michael. It was their ticket into the Imperium.
At the end of the day, it's Games Workshop's fluff, isn't it?
Yeah.
And they can pretty much leverage in whatever they want to kind of backfill a story, I think, at the end of the day.
Yep.
And as much as we feel ownership of the intellectual property, we don't have any. That belongs to them. So,
Well, Ryan's put maybe there will be a Horus Heresy 2.0, and I think that's what this Indomitus Crusade is. So we'll go over quickly what the Indomitus Crusade is, because we've still got topics, we've still got a bit more to go. So the Indomitus Crusade is where this story is going now. The Imperium has pretty much been hit by warp storms. The warp has opened up and started engulfing parts of the galaxy. In particular, it's the Dark Imperium now, which is the Imperium Nihilus, and that's where Baal and a bunch of other chapter planets are. So that's where it's all kicking off, and that's the dark side of the Imperium, which is needing the help more than anything. And pretty much Guilliman, Custodes, and some of the Silent Sisters, as well as all of this new Primaris war host, are heading off on a new crusade, the Indomitus Crusade, basically get rid of everything in the galaxy that is against what they stand for. So that's the next crusade, which could potentially lead up to another heresy in the long run, but definitely we're starting at a crusade. And the Imperial Fists are leading the rest of the strike forces from various different chapters of Space Marines as well. So there's just a huge war host building in the Imperium that's just going to go out and kill stuff. One other thing which I know Pink will be a pretty excited / gutted about is Baal has been cut off, and it's being jumped pretty much by High Fleet Leviathan. So that's closing in on Baal, and it's going to be, we'll see what happens, whether they're going to get reinforcements in time.
Yeah, I mean, can I give out tiny spoilers, or?
Yeah. Is it already stuff that's 8th edition?
It's from the Dante book. I'll leave it if you think that perhaps...
Leave spoilers, because some people don't like spoilers, and other people love them, so I'd rather not annoy people.
Okay, fair enough. If anyone's interested, read the Dante book. 1, it's really good, and 2, they have a bit of a... Sanguinius was... Obviously, he could see the future, and he wrote down in one of his scrolls a bit about what's coming up in the 8th and the Gathering Storm. Mm-hmm. So it gives you a bit of info on there, which I thought was really interesting anyways.
Definitely.
I'll leave it at that.
Excessive magnetization is asked, if Baal is cut off, how do Blood Angels get Primaris Marines? I think somebody asked that earlier.
Yeah, I was thinking that earlier when they said that everyone gets them, but now we're on the other side of the rift.
They've said that, hasn't it? They are, every now and then, pathways open up through the rift. Yeah. They have had expeditionary forces get through, and what they've seen on the other side is pretty horrible. So it's quite easy to say an expeditionary force of Primaris Marines got through a temporary calm in the storm, and have tried to get in there to help. No doubt there'll be a book, won't there, where the Primaris Marines arrive just in time to reinforce the Blood Angels, maybe. Who knows? Mm-hmm. Something along those lines.
Yeah, most definitely. And they could always offset that. You've got a little bit of Primaris getting through. They could just make up some numbers and say they lost 50,000 of them in a warp storm at the same time. That'll offset it. Baal gets reinforcements. They lose a bunch of really high-tech Primaris at the same time. It's all good. Keep going.
Yeah.
What else we got? Imperial Guard will sort the Imperium out. Those with silly gene seed. James has put, I can't wait to learn more about the Tau's 4th spear of expansion into the Damocles that went belly up. In the fluff, aren't they largely unacquainted with chaos up until this point? Yeah.
Yeah, that was quite funny. That was how they've just missed an expansion and went, oh, well, there was another one, but it kind of disappeared.
I think that's a great idea, because if you look at Tau on the map, they're in one kind of little corner, and if you then said, oh, they're going to be fighting people on the other side of the galaxy, from a fluff perspective, you go, oh, would that have ever have happened? But now you just be like, oh, it's the 4th sphere. They disappeared into the warp, and now they've appeared over here. So,
guys, I think I'm at the end of what I can contribute.
Oh, no.
Today. I'm going to start coughing, and I know that Sam will get really angry at me for coughing, so I might have to bail out the chat. I'll keep an eye on.
I'll be upset that you're ill.
I'll keep an eye on the live chat and try and take part for a bit. But thank you for
just mute yourself and wave and make little smiley faces.
just your face.
Just the beard.
I need to go.
Okay.
I'll see you later, guys. Bye. Okay, bye. I don't know how to switch this off. I'll just hang around for a bit until I work it out.
Okay. Right, what else have we got? So that's the Indomitus Crusade. What have we got in the chat? So Sanguinius is coming back. I'm pretty sure of that. We'll see. I don't know how. I mean, they can do what they want. It's their story. They
He's
could
a
come up with
vampire.
anything. He's a vampire now.
Why not?
He is full chaos. Sanguinius. He's going to be flying around with demonic wings now, and he's going to start killing people.
He's gone full blood for the blood god, yeah.
I mean, people are going to complain about that regardless, aren't they? If they brought him back in demonic form and he went with the chaos gods, a lot of people are going to absolutely lose it and just fall in love with blood angels. I know I would probably be tempted.
I'll be so happy.
Maybe this is from the Fomorian. Maybe Lionel Johnson is coming back. Definitely. I think he's got to come back. Last chat or the chat before, I can't remember which one. I was reading some of the background for the Dark Angels, and it said at the end, what's his name? Luther was shouting that he was going to return in the next crusade, which is this. This is the Indomitus Crusade. So, and then just look at the picture from the rumor engine today, which was the the lion's shoulder pelt thing.
Yeah. I mean, also, did you see that came out from, was it the Solihull Games Workshop? I thought everything was coming from the Warhammer community scene, or did they just repost it?
Reposted, I think. Yeah.
Fine. But yeah, I mean, it's that or else, really, isn't it? So,
we've got a question from Sean Jewett, but I might hold that off actually till Friday because Sean from Blue Table Painting is going to join us. I think he'd be good at answering that one. It's about board games, GW board games, so we'll answer that one on Friday. Mythos has also asked about the recent faction focus on Tau, so we'll finish up on the teleporting and reserves, and then we'll potentially go on to that Tau focus and maybe a bit of the new Dark Eldar as well.
That one, because I'm thinking of starting a Tau army. So
I haven't read the Tau one yet.
I can tell you a bit about it.
That's fine then. We'll all learn. We're all going to learn something today. So teleporting and reserves. Let me get this up just to make sure we're going to get this right. Tactical reserves. Okay, so for anybody who didn't see this, it's pretty much going the way of Age of Sigmar. Instead of having deep striking units, every unit is going to have an ability which is effectively going to be a way to get onto the table in some way, shape or form. So the example they did was for the Trigon unit in the Tyranid army, and that allows it to, during deployment, it says you can set up a Trigon underground instead of placing it on the battlefield, and at the same time you can set up a High Fleet troops unit, so it's the High Fleet keyword, in the Trigon's tunnel. At the end of any of your movement phases, set up the Trigon anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 9 inches away from enemy models. If there's another unit in the tunnel, you can set it up at the same time. It has to be within 3 inches of the Trigon, and it has to be more than 9 inches away from enemy models. Any models you can't place in this way are destroyed. So it's quite simple and straightforward in terms of how to set this up. It's awesome in the fact that it follows Age of Sigmar. You can still charge. You can effectively now deep strike onto the board and still charge when you've come down. And that will be, and they've said this as well, it's going to be, where was it? It's basically going to be the same for Terminators. Everything that comes in on that type of thing, it's going to be around 9 inches where you have to stay away from the enemy units. So I think that's definitely a good thing. The other thing they've put in as well was saying there's going to be a matched play limit. So half of your units have to be on the table. You can't have your entire force in deep strike reserve or whatever it's going to be called. You can't have anything, your whole army in reserve. And I think that's going to stop lists like World Eater drop pod spam, Space Wolf drop pod spam. You know what I mean? Like drop pods coming down.
You're just going with drop pods, aren't you?
But,
yeah.
You know, what is drop pods going to do?
Now, if you've got a character attached to a squad in a drop pod, that's 3 units. So for every one of those that you have, you've got 3 units on the table. And equally then if you've got a transport and a character and a squad, again, that's already in one little bit, that's already 3 units on the table. But it shows actually a drop pod army isn't going to be the same as it is right now.
I think the drop pod's going to have to do something different in order for it to use it. I don't know what it's going to be yet. I'm sure they're going to tell us before it comes out. But it's going to get rid of all of the annoying army deployments that you do see from time to time, and some of the lists that just aren't fun. They're there to win games, but they're not actually fun to play against, and I imagine they're not fun to play if you do it that way. However, it's going to mean that deep striking is going to be less of a risk. You're not going to have the scatter dice. You literally pick where you want it to go and you land. You've got a chance to get destroyed, but you know that's the point of this game. You've got chance. It's a chance game, isn't it? But I do like how they've put stuff in. So rather than saying it's going to be deep strike or anything like that, the Gene Stealer courts are going to be ambushing. The Orc commandos can use their cunning to sneak up on the foe. Teleporters from the Terminators, they're going to have the narrative abilities as well. It's not like a general, oh, this can deep strike, that can deep strike. So that was really cool.
No, I think this will be a lot better. I can't be the only one who will consistently roll a scatter dice and get 12 inches going one direction, which is always towards the board edge. Always towards the board edge.
I just gave up using drop pods or deep striking because that would be the point. You play against somebody else and their deep strike would be on the dot, like exactly where they wanted it to be. They'd just kill you every single time. I'd roll any deep strike and it would mishap and die. And I just thought, what's the point in deep striking? You hear about all these amazing games where people have deep striked into the heart of the enemy and managed to kill loads of stuff. Mine always end up on rocks and just die. Yeah. It's never never as cinematic as everybody else's games. So I'm all for that one. C Mini has joined. Evening all. Mini Wargamer Dave and I share a common hatred to Tau. That's from Rix. Alfred Kirkham, new to the chat, great site and content, very informative about new Warhammer 40k release. Thank you, Alfred. We try to, I mean, I've not even looked at the Tau stuff, so that's not going to be very informative, but we try to do our best. Last either that Trigon and light ride it to the other side, that would be cool. And a drop pod Primaris Marines, that's it's going to be fantastic.
I'm wondering what the drop pod does now, apart from it, unless it just gives a unit that otherwise wouldn't have deep strike, or, you know, they're not calling it deep strike anymore, but the ability to arrive from reserves anywhere on the board. Because otherwise, like, if you don't scatter anymore, that was kind of one of the main things about a drop pod. Although I guess it did let you bring in like tactical squads and whatever else you wanted to, and they otherwise wouldn't have been able to. But
yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they do with drop pods. The Fomorians just put tomorrow there will be an article about transports, so maybe they're going to put drop pods in there just to confirm what's going on. They have to do something. You're not going to pay 35 points or the equivalent of whatever points it's going to be in 8th edition for it to just be a very narrative version of your models turning up.
Well, otherwise you just take Assault Marines, don't you? Because they'll do the same thing. They'll just land, and then they'll be quicker once they've landed as well, so they'd just be straight up better. So
Hairy Painter's put in match play, you can't use a full drop pod army unless they change how they work in 8th. Yep, that's what we're saying with the... It is half of your army has to be on the board, isn't it?
Rounded up. I believe it was half.
Half, or I think it was around half your army. So that's drop pods. That's drop pods. That's deep strikes, drop pods, and reserves.
That's the only one you care about.
What's this? Turrican. One of the new chapters is the Astral Beards. They venture to new worlds and implement change management in the name of the Emperor. That is Phil's chapter.
That is your Primaris chapter, Sam, please.
What, based on Phil?
Yeah, if you're not going to have your own WGO chapter, I think you should do like that beard chapter. That would be amazing.
Frost and Fist says, I used to like pink. I don't know if that's in relation to you maybe starting Tau. Stewie, Rachel's rabbit is just making loads of noise in the background. It's such a little annoying rodent-y thing. Whatever's. Cheers, Stewie. Right, what have we got next then? Let's go on to Tau.
Yeah.
So, they're doing these faction focuses, which are quite interesting because they're explaining, first of all, the name changes. So Tau has now got a little apostrophe after the T, which is interesting. I don't know whether if that's just to copyright it or something. It makes sense. Because I think Tau means plane in Dutch.
Well, no, Tau is actually like a Greek letter or something like that. So
I thought it was like an airplane. If I'm sure, I knew I'm sure it was airplane in one language. Anyway, but yeah, it could be a Greek thing as well.
Yeah, you can't copyright it. It's just a general word. So no, it makes sense. And their homeworld was Tau anyway, so with the little apostrophe. So it makes sense.
Yes.
Everyone just like Tau. No, that's it. I'm out.
Look at this. Rick's, oh Lord, Tau talk. I'm out. People really don't like Tau, do they?
I think people will be quite happy with the changes, to be fair. I think it's brought them more into line with stuff. But
yeah, I mean, the one rule, I think definitely seeing the Dark Eldar update today, where they were talking about, we'll go on to that, not allowing units to escape. You've got to roll to try and fall back from combat, because one of the rules that the crisis suits have got, or some more of the units, is they can jump back away from combat and still fire.
Yeah, okay, that one does.
Which is
that one did make me laugh, especially if you jump back. You're definitely in flamer range, so put a flamer on every crisis suit that you see, because you can fire all your weapons as well now.
Yeah, and I don't know if they can take, because in the past you could have, I think it was one twin-linked weapon, or two twin-linked weapons, and that was it, or it was like one twin-linked weapon and two normal weapons.
You could, yeah, because you could only fire a couple of weapons, so
Yeah.
you'd normally twin-link one and then have something separately, or you'd have two individual weapons and take a signature system or something on
That
it.
was it. Yeah, you only had so many points on the battle crisis suit that could actually carry stuff, and some of the bigger suits could have more as well. So what they've said now is each crisis battle suit can take 3 weapons, and which again you can fire all of them. So they're saying they recommend a flamer plus 2 of the weapons of your choice. Yeah, I mean, flamer now, just chucking a flamer in is going to be disgusting, because if you get them in combat, that's the idea. You want to get a Tau army into combat. Now they can burn you with flamers, which is going to be nasty. I don't know if they've got any pistol equivalents, because they can't use them in combat. So
But you don't need it if you can retreat and still shoot. Why bother? You don't need them.
Phil's joining. He's lying down in the other room now, I think. You're right, Phil.
I've just come in to stop the talk about Tau. Just stop it.
Oh, Phil.
From the Eldar player.
Have you heard about your new Legion, your new chapter, the Astral Beards?
That would be lovely, thank you very much.
I'm not doing it.
Beards for the win.
I'm doing a different army.
You're not doing it. Hold on a minute. Let's see if I can get some kind of Astral Beard action going.
Wow, this is why we switched, people. Just let's carry on with a little bit more Tau. I know some people like it, some people absolutely just hate it, and we'll go on to Dark Eldar, or the new name for them for definite, which are called Drakari.
Yeah.
We'll go on to those. So what else have we got? The Flamers give you nasty Overwatch defense. Yeah, we've seen that. So what else have they got?
So the main toning down bit was really the Storm Surge. So previously you could put down his little stabilizers and it'll let you shoot twice in a single shooting phase, which if he got that off and you got solidly hit was just ripping apart everything. It's why they were so popular on the tournament scene. But now what they're saying is it just gives you +1 to your ballistic skill, which obviously is not bad at all. But what he has got a lot of twin linked weapons, which of course now just give you double shots. So,
and also you've got all of the rerolls from potential abilities that they're going to have, all of the command points.
Well, to be fair, the Markelites one doesn't look as much. Before it gave you +1 ballistic skill if you had a Markelite on someone. Now it gives you ability to reroll ones. So again, I feel like they're actually toning down the Tau a bit. I think they found that they were perhaps too one-dimensional.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're balancing everything. Like one thing that Mythos is definitely worried about is that his combat armies are going to get destroyed by shooting still in 8th edition. And I think one thing we're going to have to wait for is just to see what happens in terms of balancing. So although we're seeing a lot of updates to shooting, we're also seeing massive updates for combat. And especially the Dark Eldar today, we're seeing some huge updates for combat that can definitely help. So we're going to have to wait until 8th is released and then start playing some games. And I would recommend more than one, just to make sure you've played it properly, because we definitely aren't going to be playing it perfect on the first couple of games. And just see how everything works out. And I think it's going to be absolutely perfect. So I wouldn't worry. What else have we got? So they've got the fly keyword ability. So that allows them to fall back from combat and still shoot at full effect, which is disgusting. So that's definitely a huge buff for Tau.
But have you noticed that there's no such thing as being... they've not got this jetpack jump as well anymore. So they used to be able to move 6 inches and then 2d6 in the assault phase, which, you know, you think on average it gives them about 13 inches movement a turn, and it let you shoot and then jump back behind some cover. There's no mention of that at the moment at all. It might just be we've not seen the full rules for them. But equally, we've seen the sniper drones rules in there, and it makes no mention of that at all. So we might actually just see that rule has gone completely now,
well,
which would be a big nerf to them, to be fair.
Yeah, because before they had the mobility and the shooting. Now it looks like Eldar, Drakari are going to have the mobility. Eldar, Harlequins, that sort of army is going to have mobility. Your Tau are going to have your shooting, along with probably your Astra Militarum and other armies like that. Your versatile jack of all trades is going to be your Space Marines and your Primaris. They're going to be able to do a bit of everything. And I think you're going to have very blatant strengths and weaknesses from different factions now, which is going to be a good thing. What else have we got from these? So sniper drones. Phil was really excited about sniper drones. Actually, you weren't, were you? It was Rangers, Eldar Rangers, when you heard about these, because you can pick out the characters now. You ignore the rule where you can't snipe, you can't kill a character unless they're the closest unit. Whereas if you have the sniper special rule, you can pick them off and you can kill characters even if they're amongst loads of different units, which is definitely something that people are going to be having to take in their armies now. And maybe a Vindica Assassin is going to be something in most Imperial armies.
Yeah, and it's the same here with the sniper drones. They've got exactly the same rule. And actually, one bit of information we can take from this that they haven't really announced at all is that the drone controller guy isn't on here at all. So it looks like perhaps what we'll have is some sort of smaller, like if he's his own separate sort of character as such, again, and buffs like the drones in the unit, because otherwise they're only hitting at the moment on a 5+. And we've already heard from some of the guys from Frontline Gaming, for example, saying that there's definitely ways of buffing those drones. So I think we're going to see a lot more almost Age of Sigmar style characters buffing the units that they're nearby, even if it's almost these sort of sub characters.
Yeah, and we've seen it work in Age of Sigmar, so we know it works. We know it's definitely a learning curve. You don't chuck your characters in as much. You have to think about what all your characters do, and I think that's where the difficulty lies in a lot of the games now. Although the rules are simpler and they're a lot more streamlined, you've got to think a hell of a lot more about what each unit does and what their ability is and how it can interact with other parts of your armies. So I think that's always a good thing as well.
I think you have to be careful as well of over relying on characters, because they can be, sniped out one way or another. And I've destroyed, in Age of Sigmar, I've destroyed a Khorne army in very short order just by taking out all of the bones and leaving just a bunch of ineffectual units. So again, I still think, whilst you get this mechanic of all the characters providing this sort of bubble of bonuses, you do have to be careful that there are going to be units out there like the sniper drones, like no doubt the Rangers and the Vindicators and all the rest, that can, if you put too much reliance on their abilities, you can find yourself without them very quickly in the game. So again, all good for gameplay, I think.
Definitely. And I think, but the other thing is with Age of Sigmar, you don't have that rule where you can't shoot at you have to shoot at the closest unit, because there aren't as many. It's not a shooty game. There's obviously some armies that do have a lot of shooting in Age of Sigmar, but in 40k it's a lot more prevalent. So you have to have some sort of rule like you have to shoot the closest unit unless it's. I think that's why they've had to put that in. However, I think we are going to see a lot of characters still, because things aren't going to die as quickly. There's going to be a lot more wounds, and I think the counter to that is going to be balancing your army to have a lot of small arms and a lot of large arm fire, or whatever they're called, big arm fire, small arm and big arms. I think you're going to have to balance your list, because you're going to have to take out characters and vehicles, and you're also going to have to take out horde and infantry units, and you can't, one weapon isn't going to do everything anymore. You're going to have to look at your list and make sure you've got a good balance over everything.
Well, you've got to assume then that wounds aren't going to overspill between models. So if a las cannon hits orcs, for example, does it kill D6 orcs?
No, that's what we checked last week.
They compared that.
Yeah, we didn't. I didn't know, to be honest. We were looking at the Lehman Russ and how the battle cannon works, and that does D6 hits, I think it was. And each one of those can only kill a maximum of one model. So against Acadian units, even if you cause 18 wounds, you can only kill a maximum of 6. If you roll that D6 hits and you manage to get a 6, you'll only still kill 6 Acadians. But against a vehicle or a character, you can do a hell of a lot of wounds to it and destroy it in one turn. So I think that's why you've got to look at las cannons and bigger heavy weapons and make sure you're aiming them at the right units to take down. You don't want to waste it on infantry, which I think is only going to be a good thing. Let's have a look now at the chat, and then we're going to go into Dark Eldar, because there's been
While you're looking at the chat, Sam, my dog's laid next to me snoring. Are you okay with the noise?
Let me just check. Yes, that's okay. It's Lola. No one can ever get angry with Lola.
It's Lola.
I've got Stewie in the background doing backflips, so little backflips. He's just like, woo. Let's talk about AOS Skirmish. we'll do that for another. I think we'll do another show on Age of Sigmar Skirmish because we're getting the book. I think, is there a book coming out in the future?
Yes, yeah, I think that's soon.
Yeah, we'll look at that. I think you need to do a Astral Beard chapter, Phil. It definitely suits you. You can be the Primarch of the Astral Beards. It'll be absolutely perfect for you. Every single character has to have a beard. If they don't have one, you execute them on the spot.
Yeah.
So that's cool. What else have we got?
I could have them led by the White Dwarf model, couldn't I?
Yes. Yeah. Ryan Benfield, I don't actually have any Tau at my local gaming store. I haven't seen any, which makes me happy. I think we'll see a bit of everything now.
Rick's put the only upgrade they could give Tau is to discontinue them as a gaming line.
Dear me.
Malaga Wargames has joined. Welcome, Malaga Wargames. This is a bit further back. I'm going to go down. Rix has said, I'll create a second founding chapter called Firebeards. I think you're going to be a founding chapter soon, Phil.
I can't believe I've already got a successor chapter and I haven't even started.
That's amazing.
Johnny Rockstar, I'm hoping Lilith Hesprix is suitably overpowered. Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of really good stuff. Pre-order this Saturday apparently for the Age of Sigmar Skirmish book, so we're definitely going to get that. We're going to go through that for definite. It costs £6. It's not really anything, is it?
Yeah.
Timothy's asked if he can be a barbarator chaplain in your chapter, Phil. You've already got people. I mean, applications are flying in for positions in your army, so
Can I be a change management librarian?
you need to grow a bigger beard.
Of course. Why not?
Take a beard or it doesn't work. Dan Lavin on the Facebook group. Stop it, Stewie. Stop backflipping. Dan Lavin from the Facebook group's got a pretty impressive beard as well, so he definitely needs a place in the chapter. I think we'll do that. We'll have a drawing board on the Facebook group where we can just see who can enter and what position they're going to get, and we'll model them in the army. So Turrican, just to mention, there's another Q&A with the game designers tomorrow afternoon. Yes, there is. And I think we will be watching it. We're not going to do a show tomorrow on that because we're going to have Siege Studios on. We're doing a quick interview with James from Siege Studios tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Okay. But then on Friday, we're going to do a hangout where we can probably talk about the Q&A. Go on, Phil.
Can I just say as well, we're also going to be having another special guest next Thursday as well for a live chat and Q&A. But I just need to confirm times, but I've got confirmation. The special guest is definitely up for it. So,
can you give away any sneak hints?
Well, he says he's definitely up for it, but I haven't agreed the time. So let's just put it this way: if you want to know some of your backstories into 40k history, then this is somebody who pretty much knows and has helped form a lot of it. So pretty exciting stuff.
Mm-hmm. Are you dragging your thumb across your microphone, Phil?
I'm moving my mouse pointer around, Sam, with my touchpad. Could that be having the same impact?
Maybe. Rick says, oh man, I'm going to join your Facebook group then. There we go. There's another person to join. You can add into your ranks. All right, let's go on to Dark Eldar. So they have been renamed Drakari, along with... Oh, there it is again. What are you doing, Phil? It's like whooshing and washing in my ears. That's fine. Thank you. You're doing it on purpose. Just He's setting me off. Right, Drakari. So this is the update from today. I think it was today. And they're basically putting them back as a more competitive, powerful army. In the past, they've not been one that has been chosen very often. You normally see your Tau, you see your Space Marines and your Eldar. It's doing that distraction again. So... Dark Eldar, Drakari are now going to get a huge update. Raiders aren't going to be flimsy. I give up. What's the point? Shall I just join in? Shall we just descend into madness, yeah?
No,
right?
carry on.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Sam.
I just wanted to have a beard.
Yes. Right. Okay, so Raiders are going to be less glass cannony. They're going to be able to take hits because of the fact that everything's got more wounds. They're not going to be wiped out very quickly. Who was it? The guy who was talking about it was Frankie again. So Frankie does a lot of the background, a lot of the rules and playing games as well, so he knows what he's talking about. And he said he wants Raiders flying around with guys shooting poison needles out of the back. He wants close combat units that are feared and some cool, hopefully extra dirty tricks I can use to gain an unfair advantage during battle. and that's pretty much what they're supposed to do as dirty space pirates, is the way that he put it. So they're still open topped, which means you can shoot out at the top of them. Another thing, I think it was the fact that you can shoot, if your raider gets charged, you can shoot with your pistols from the open topped vehicle as well, which is something new.
That's a great rule. I love that.
And it's quite thematic as well. If you have a bunch of Terminators storm the side of a raider, you can just imagine a bunch of Dark Eldar popping over the top and just shooting them with their pistols. Get off our raider! I think that's how they speak. Venoms, so due to the change of the core rules as well, all of their weapons have a chance to hurt even resilient weapons on a 6 to wound. So they still haven't done anything about poisoned. We don't know anything about poisoned weapons and what the special rule is for that. However, they're definitely bumping up the vehicles. They're bumping up some of the units. And the big one was Witches, I think. So Witches have still got a 4-up invulnerable save in combat. But they've also got a special ability approved by Phil. This is really difficult, Phil. I'm going to get you to do these in future.
I'm sorry.
Now that we can, actually, I don't need to be in the top right. You can now present every single week. And I'm going to sit there putting stupid little pictures up and making faces and derailing it constantly. And you're going to be tearing your hair out.
Sorry, Sam.
Right, so the new rule is no escape, and that means so they roll off if an enemy infantry unit within 1 inch of any models with this ability wants to fall back. The enemy can only fall back if the player commanding it wins the roll off. So we were saying that's going to stop units like the Tau falling back. So you can send your Witches in, you can pretty much flail them and cover them in nets and stop them from retreating and using their disgusting ability to shoot things.
Yeah. They even mention here that it also works against the Tau crisis suits that can normally retreat and then shoot. They still are subject to this.
Tedious Payloads just said, will multiple witch units give you extra dice to prevent retreat? I don't think they will, because it specifically says if an enemy infantry unit within 1 inch of any models with this ability wishes to fall back. So even if you've got 30 models from different units, they're all going to be... It says any models, so I don't think you're going to get more than 1 dice. They might have to do an FAQ on that, but the way it's worded, I would say no. I'd say you just roll off once. However, you could have a witch unit which can tie up multiple units, because you've seen that you can do your split charges, you can tie up multiple units with your witches, and they all have to roll to try and get away. And obviously they've got to win the roll off anyway.
Yep. Right,
who else has joined? So Green Stuff Games has joined, James Jones as well. Welcome, both of you. Hope this applies to all witch cult units like Hellions and Reavers too. It could be an ability that's just going to pass across all of it, to be honest. Yeah,
that would be a really interesting one for them as well.
Yeah, if it's attached to keyword witch rather than specifically a witch unit, it would be pretty cool. And I think Dark Eldar are going to need it. This is basically a glass hammer. So if it can't keep people in combat, it's going to have a real problem about that with that retreat and shoot, rule. So it would make sense. They've made it possible across multiple units. I do like the idea of putting those, this 1-2 attack with witches and incubi. So you're just tying people into combat, but then smashing the hell out of them with some serious Dark Eldar warriors with -3 armor piercing and +1 strength.
Yeah.
Ouch.
And they did say there's still going to be glass cannons. So a lot of people will wait and see what was going to be happening to them. And it's saying that the vehicles are restored to glory, allowing you to zoom around the battlefield and get your troops into key positions. So for objective-based games, you're going to be able to do what some armies do extremely well with destroying units and then at the last minute turboing across the board and capturing objectives when you need them. If you're going to do the same card system where you draw a card and you need to capture an objective, this sort of army is going to be the one that's going to be able to capture objectives very quickly without worrying about walking across the field. As good as Primaris Marines are going to be, they're still going to be slow compared to Drakari. And I think that's why you need transports.
I mean, it does make you wonder. I'm just reading Dark Elf Dave sort of saying a 50-50 chance of holding them in combat isn't enough for their survivability. I mean, it does make you wonder that if you've got multiple small units of witches, whether if you've got 2 units on a single, you've got to this. Surely the opponent has got to run away from both combats, so you would need to make 2 rolls.
I think Sam's right. If you read the rule as written, it just says if you've got it and you're near any models with this ability. So
don't get me wrong. I think it should be the other way. I think it should be if you've got 3 units of witch elves in combat within range of one enemy model, then they have to test 3 times. I think that's how it should work because 50-50 isn't enough. I think it should be on a 5 or a 6 they manage to get away or something.
Well,
we are forgetting. Sorry.
One thing just to notice here is it isn't actually a 50-50. It's slightly better than that because it says they have to win the roll-off.
Yeah, that's true.
Then it's a draw. Then the witches win.
Yeah, good point. And also don't forget command points. So you can always force a re-roll anyway if you're saving command. For a crucial combat that you definitely need to win that roll-off, then hang around with command point.
Yep. But I think the biggest buff that Dark Elder, and it's going to be similar to what Orcs are going to see, is what he said about the transports not being death traps anymore. The trouble you had is you had these really flimsy open-topped armor 10 transports. They blew up. Everyone inside took a strength 4 hit. That even went up in 6th or 7th edition. It only used to be strength 3. And when your guys have got paper for armor, it killed half the people inside. So it felt like you were putting them literally into a death trap and you were killing your own men. But if now it just forces you to disembark or something, they might be way more viable than they were before.
I think as an open-topped vehicle, you should have the ability to jump off and not take that hit. Like a normal vehicle, yes, you take hits, but on an open-topped, you should be able to hop out, and maybe on a 6, you take a wound or something. We don't even know how that's going to work for transports, because we're going to find out tomorrow, I imagine, how transports are going to work. But I would love a rule which made open-top vehicles less of a risk to be riding, because obviously the vehicle is going to blow up easier. Or it did in the past. You've not got that +1 penetration chart anymore. It's going to have less wounds, I imagine, now. But I would like some sort of thematic jumping off the top of a raider to jump out the way of a last cannon shot that's just wiping out his transport sort of thing. Turrican, I miss Mike. I hope he's earning decent tips tonight. Yeah, I miss Mike as well. Like every 10 minutes away is a difficult time. It'll be on afterwards as well, and he won't have a single issue for the rest of the night. It's just on streams. Anytime he comes onto a stream, his internet just kicks off. Rick's Dark Eldar are useful for ultras. We need their bio-organic material to use to make roads for our troops. I'd love it if that was how people made roads in the 41st millennium. Just crushing Dark Eldar. Not even grinding it up, just laying Dark Eldar down on a path and then driving over them and squishing them into tarmac. That's brutal. Right, Neil Molden, hey, you're still on? Yes, we are. And Jake Laurie, does anyone know how many points a Space Marine Terminator is? Not off the top of my head. The Primaris was it 8 power points for 5 of them, or 6 power points for 5? I know they were cheaper than...
It's 6 power points for 5, but whilst we've seen the stat lines for the Marines and Terminators, I don't think they included the power points. The only other ones we've seen has been the Thousand Sons, who were 8.
Yeah, so, I mean, Terminators were between... the Primaris were between a Space Marine and a Terminator, so I'd imagine a Terminator would have to be something like 7, 8 or 9. It's going to be one of those. TD's played it... 8. Okay, so, Harry Payne to 8, so that's pretty much right then. I'm wondering how Inari will work now we have Craftworld and... I'm going to have to get used to calling them their new name, Drakari. Now that we have Craftworld and Drakari overview. Single term, I'm not sure. 5 term is 250 points. Yeah, that's current edition. I don't know. The thing is, that's also narrative points, isn't it? That's not with upgrades or any other stuff. That's like the loose way of building a list. So we'll see.
Yeah.
When do I get super duper orcs? I imagine not long. We're going to get these souped up Age of Sigmar style Iron Jaw models, but with massive armor and huge guns. So I think orcs are going to be incredible models. After looking at the Iron Jaw kits, as soon as they came out, I started an Age of Sigmar army. I was like, I need to play that just because of how good the sculpts are. So a 40k version of that where you can convert vehicles and chuck them into your army as well. Phil is going to lose it. He's going to be collecting orcs day one.
Yeah, if they bring Auric looking orcs out, that's it. I'll be gone in just a massive flash bang. Just boom.
He's been waiting to say it, hasn't he?
Well done, Phil. Well done. And you've been really good as well, not using them over the top. And That's why he's not been listening. He's just been paying attention to what sort of pictures he can do. And the other one as well, Pink, you love your orcs as well. You've done an awesome orc army with converted bikes. You did one with a huge harpoon, not harpoon, an anchor off the side of him, wasn't he?
I've made a freebooters army out of everything. So I've got like a Mega Armor War Boss made out of a killer can. And yeah, I can't wait to bring them back out. For converting, you can't get a better army than orcs.
Yeah.
I don't think I will do orcs for 40k simply because you two would both play them, and I've already done them in Age of Sigmar, so I've had enough green for the moment, and that's why I think Primaris is fine for me. Although I did get a little bit annoyed the other day because we were at the studio building the wall, and I was saying I'm going to do Primaris. I'm definitely sorted. I'm doing them, and Phil goes, "Oh, maybe I should do them as well because they're going to be popular. We're going to need to do an army each." And it's like, no, Phil, you literally claimed every other army. This was the one army that I can do, and you're now wanting to do them as well. It's horrendous. We'll get your orcs up on a showcase at some point in the future for Pink.
Yeah, I want to bring the painting up to a better standard, and we'll do something like that. That'd be good.
Well, just the conversions alone are worth showing. So do some painting on them, bump them up a bit, and then bring them round, or we'll go round to the studio and we'll do some really cool stuff. Ryan Benfield, we need to see the actual points to judge anything really, and that's the whole point. We're going to have to play games. We're going to have to see how it all works. This is all our opinion and speculation on what we think 8th edition is going to do and what we hope it's going to have, but no one's going to know anything until it's been play tested and released and we actually see how it goes. 1 week and 4 days to Warhammer Fest. It most definitely is.
Can you imagine if they're the 8th edition rule set and you could just buy it there? How good would that? That would be amazing.
I'll remortgage the house on that Sunday and just buy a Primaris. I reckon they're going to be 35 quid for 5 models. And I worked out I want at least 50 straight away. So that's 350 quid.
Wow.
And then I want to get it up to at least a company to start with. So that's going to be 700 quid just on the Marines. And then you've got to buy the tanks and the dreadnoughts and all that as well. But I'm going to do 50 at first because I'll leave the other 50 for all of the special units and do 50.
I don't know if you need that many though, because you've already seen that probably about 5 guys is similar to maybe not quite, but 10-man tactical squad.
Doing it.
So
I don't
you end
care.
up with 50 of them. You're going to have a whole company or a whole chapter's worth.
Yeah, but think about the KR cases that I could buy to fill them.
That's what it's all about. That is what it's all about.
Yeah, and everyone was bullying me on the Facebook group saying that I had to do more than just a company, because our company is big for me. 100 models, especially 100 Primaris models, that's quite a lot for me because I switch between things too much. So when they were like, "Oh, you should do a chapter," oh, not a chapter, keep going bigger than that. It's like, I can't. A company, that's a stretch for me. We'll see what happens.
I think Turrican's saying buy tons of the new starter and then sell the Nurgle half. I think a lot of people are going to do this. And actually, if you like Chaos, 8th edition is going to be your chance to get a really, really cheap Nurgle army.
Yeah.
Just
Jack's
the amount of
all
people
over
reselling on eBay or Daniel Open's got.
Are they Primaris? Because if that's a Primaris starter set, then yeah, that's fine. I'll buy loads of those. And I don't want single pose models either. I want to have the ones where you can convert them and make them look decent.
They're saying they're multi-part, aren't they? And they are Primaris in the box.
The whole boxes. So they've got Assault Marine ones on the back and things. So that is a Primaris box.
I think it is.
Oh my God. Okay, I'm losing it myself now. I genuinely thought that was just going to be a bog standard Space Marine Ultramarine box. And I told Mike he could have it. I was like, yeah, we'll buy it. You can have the Ultramarines, and I'm sure Jack would have the Nurgle out of that. But forget it, they're mine. And I need 5 of them.
So, Phil, where did you think that they were going to be multi-pose? Because traditionally, at the start set, they've always been monopose.
There's been a few. There's been a few pictures, hasn't there, of somebody painting some of the models up. And I think in one of the chats that was going off on Twitter, someone who's seen the models said they were multi-part kits. So I could be wrong. I'm just saying that's what people are saying. They're multi-part, but it makes sense because if you go by, I know what you're saying. Generally, starter sets are single pose. But if you think the recent pattern of say releasing box sets and then splitting the units up and releasing them separately, it makes more sense that they release multi-part kits so they can just rebox them 2 months in and sell them separately for more money.
I don't know about that. I mean, They've always done single pose, well, not single pose, but minimal movement. Not as good as the other kits, because when it comes, actually no, they haven't. What am I talking about? Betrayal at Calth and Prospero Burns were both the sets where
Yeah,
you got
those weren't 40k starter kits. I think those were aimed at more experienced gamers. The reason traditionally it's been monopose is because you can then bring a 5-year-old, 6-year-old kid and just say, let's put these together. You just push them together. They're done in like 10 minutes. Whereas if you think how long it takes to put together the Betrayal at Calth Marines, and if you're not very good with, you're not very dexterous, or you're not very used to modelling and cutting off flash and stuff, it's actually a lot harder to make them look decent.
I think they're going to have a starter set smaller than that to start. They've done a lot of kits that are like 10, 15, 20 pounds, which get you into, just trying the hobby, because the starter sets, not that many kids go and buy the starter sets. In my experience, they want to buy a box of models. They want to buy 20, 30 pound maximum box of models, unless they're splitting it between their mates. And I think those Prospero boxes and the burning of Calth, all they did was show how popular it was. The price was an absolute bargain. They sold by the bucket load, and people are still buying them off eBay rather than buying the current split up kits from the shop. So I think maybe what they did was test those 2 box sets to see how popular it was. And from now on, we're going to see multi-pose kits. If that's the case, then GW fair play. I'll buy a hell of a lot of those. I'm just going to have to warn Rachel beforehand. And Jack's going to have an absolutely huge Nurgle army. He's going to have 5 to 10 boxes worth of Nurgle. If anybody on the chat, if we have extra Nurgle and anybody wants them, we're going to have them.
I'm thinking maybe I should start a basically free Nurgle army now.
Do it, yeah. So between you, Jack, and anybody else, I'll buy all of the Primaris, and everybody else can have the Nurgle and split them how you want.
There's a few people saying they're going to sell out really quickly. I mean, it is going to be. Maybe the reason Games Workshop are doing such a long lead up is so they can stockpile the starter set.
I'm going to have to contact every independent and pre-order in advance. Jonathan Shaw, I've got 100 box sets on order already. Okay, Jonathan, I might need a few of those. What else have we got in the chat? Harry Painter, you have to do the company, Sam. This is the most determined I've been. Don't shake your head, Phil. This is the most determined I've been, and a company is definitely my aim.
Well, I think you can go company chapter, and now we're going back to Heresy. You can go Legion after that. There's no reason to stop.
I just need to pick a chapter and test the paint scheme first, and then I'll be good. Turrican, they were pictures of the box set leaked. They're saying it's definitely going to be Nurgle.
Yeah.
Green Stuff Games saying, is it a rumour or definitely? It is definitely.
We've seen pictures of that now.
And that's that. Okay.
I like Kablam saying he'll be up for the mini rulebook out of the box. I think that all the rulebooks might be mini now. It looks like it's going to be so much more streamlined.
Well, the rulebooks are going to be free. Yeah. They're giving them away free when it's launched. Okay, so I'm going to have to talk about buying them. One thing I wanted to go over as well before we end the chat is in our Facebook group as well. Somebody, there's still more chat I'll go through in a minute, but I asked about the topics and questions for this week's show, and Dan Lavin said, as the majority of live chats have understandably been GW based, what with new releases like the Primaris Marines and the new edition games, how about going off track a little bit and talking about other game systems and new releases, or giving airtime to little one-man operations and independent companies? And that's things like doing reviews on Kickstarter campaigns and things like that. So that was a suggestion from Dan on something we could do on our live chats, because for the last 3 weeks we've been on 40k overdrive, and that's because it's definitely my main love and definitely something that we're going to be focusing as a channel going forwards. But we are trying to include as many of the smaller games as possible, but they're just not necessarily on the chats every week, because we do as pretty much what we like as a hobby primarily, but also what all of you lot like to see and like to talk about. So we've got to try and find a balance between them, and a lot of the stuff we do on the smaller companies aren't necessarily in the chats, but we've got things like the interviews, we've got reviews and first look reviews that we try to put on our channel at least. But we definitely going to be looking forward to doing games like Warlord, what was the Sea Lion campaign, Conflict 47 and Bolt Action. So they're definitely ones we're looking at doing in the future. And we've also got Frostgrave. We bought quite a lot of stuff for that to start up. as well as Wild West Exodus, and Phil's done a beautiful desert board, which I'm sure many of you have seen, so we can use that for the Wild West Exodus and Test of Honor. So there's a whole load of games that we are desperate to get into. However, at least for the foreseeable small future, we will be focused on 8th edition because that's what we love.
Yeah,
So
I don't mind doing an extra little chat if we get some time to do some of it, because some of the extra little ones like that Drowned Earth one you did, it actually looked incredible, and I can see you just don't see him otherwise, do you?
Well, the guy who made that, James, he's done it all by himself as well, pretty much. He's done the whole process by himself. So it's such a huge achievement for him to manage to be so successful with it. And he's looked into Kickstarters and things like that in the past, and how some of them have maybe not performed as well as they could have done. And he's done what he can to make sure that his Kickstarter is going to be as positive as possible. So it's definitely, smaller games like that, definitely worth looking into. The giant apes from that game look incredible.
I mean,
you loved those, didn't you?
What were you saying, Phil?
One of the things we've talked about, Sam, is when the studio's up and running, it's going to be easier as well to do a few playthrough games. So that's something we want to do. Is we might not necessarily be able to do lots and lots in terms of battle reports and those kind of things, but certainly getting some of the games makers to come into the studio and do a playthrough with us, where we can film that and put it on the YouTube channel or on the website, so people can see how those games play. And then we're going to be starting doing things like Devil's Run and things like that, so people can see the actual gameplay. So I think as well, we're going to try and give them airtime. But obviously, we can't put up 20 videos a day. I think people might decide they've had enough of this.
Yeah, we try to do... normally we try and do one video a day, and we mix a lot of our stuff between the premium side of the website as well, because obviously our focus at the moment is getting the studio built, because we've put a lot of money into that, we've put a lot of effort into getting it done, and everybody who has helped us on the premium part of our website has basically allowed us to set up the studio. And at the minute we're building a wall. Phil's building the wall. Actually, it's been done. I've painted most of it with help from Sarah and Phil. And there's not much left. We're aiming to be done hopefully by the end of this week and start recording next week onwards. So for 8th edition, our plan is that we'll have the studio complete and ready to film in, which means that a lot of our content going forwards will be able to be turned around a lot quicker, because currently I need to drive to Phil's, I need to pick up Mike or whoever on the way to drive to Phil's. We've set up the cameras, we set up the armies. By the time we've done that, we're already an hour or an hour and a half in, and it just takes a long time, which is why the studio was such a no-brainer really for us to invest in. So going forwards, we should be able to stroll up, open the studio, set up armies and turn on the cameras, and then take the cards and go. And that's the idea behind it. And because of that streamlining, it means we're going to have more premium content, we're going to have more games and more test games in place, and our unboxings and things like that, we're going to be able to do a hell of a lot more of those. So expect a lot more content. We're not going to flood our YouTube channel with tiny videos. We're going to try and do the same quality content that we're aiming to do at the moment, and keep up with a schedule as well as best as possible. We want to keep our Wednesday chat, we want to keep our Friday chat, so we want to do at least one unboxing or review per week, and at least one battle report. And at the minute we're trying to split. One battle report will be on YouTube each week, and then one will be on the website. And if you haven't checked out the website, you can make a free account, and that will give you access to extra videos for absolutely nothing. You literally make an account and that's it. If you do pay for the premium, it's £2.99 a month, and that gives you access to every single video that we do on the website, as well as all of the stuff on YouTube. And it's got a slightly different layout, so you can, if you just want to search Dark Eldar, we're gonna have to change the name of that, Phil, to Drakari. If you just want to search Drakari, you can click on a link and it brings up every video to do with Drakari. If you want to just learn how to do something to do with painting, you can click on the painting tab and it brings up all of our painting videos. So the website is for that. Thank you, Phil, again. Tedious Payload said you should do a Tale of Gamers thing with 8th. We are definitely doing that, and that's why I think everyone's waiting on me to pick my army. Phil's pretty much, you're doing what were you doing? Tau, didn't you say in the end?
No.
You said you were going to get your Gene Stealers done before 8th.
Oh yeah. So, but Gene Stealer cults first, and I'm going to get them done before 8th. So I think I've got less than 4 weeks to do. I think I've got about 2,500 points.
So what are you doing for the 8th edition army?
I'm going to treat myself to a decision later.
If you say Primaris, I'm done.
I might do like Primaris.
I'm done. I'm out. I'm playing Age of Sigmar full time. See you later.
Don't make me cough.
Pink's muted. He's laughing away and he's muted. Pink, you're doing Tau for 8th edition, aren't you?
I'm thinking about it. It's getting a lot of hate. I might have to reconsider.
Okay, well, you could maybe do Nurgle. I'll do Primaris, you do Nurgle. Phil does his Tau, or whichever army he decides to do on the day, because it'll only take him a day.
It might have to be Thousand Suns.
Mike's doing Ultramarines, and I think if it depends on if we're going to do 4 or if we're going to do 6. I don't know how many. I don't think we're going to do any more than 6, but we're going to probably run it for a month's worth of army building and then do a lot of games after that with those armies that we've built. And it might end up being that every week there'll be an update, but not necessarily from all 4 or all 6 of us. So one week there might be an update from 2, the next week it'll be the other 2, or it'll be 3 then 3, that sort of thing. So it'll definitely be good. Imperial Guard, Tau, throw in the towel, Pink.
Terrible. It's so bad.
I really like that. That is brilliant. Yeah, that's brilliant. So suggestions for Pink on what he should play if he's not going to do Tau, and abuse towards Phil so that he doesn't play Astral Beards, which I actually
surely Phil's going Magnus and Zinch, isn't he?
Maybe.
I'll accept
My voice
that.
is going. Maybe.
Well, we'll be going. And Steve's joined us just as we're talking about the Tale of Generals. Steve's turned up to say he's going to join in as well. So Steve might be another person who's going to be joining. So we might go up to 6 people, because at the minute there's definitely going to be Pink, Phil, myself, and Mike. So that's 4. We just need to get 2 other people that are going to be definites, and I'm pretty sure Steve would do it. Would Jack do it for definite?
Yeah, because his exams will be over by then, so he's all for it.
Okay, so that's pretty much it then. That's the 6 people that we'll do for the Tale of Generals, and that will be. I think Steve, I don't know what Steve's doing. I know Mike's doing Ultramarines, and then Jack can do Nurgle. So we've got a mix of stuff.
Okay.
What were you going to say?
Steve doesn't actually know what we're talking about. That's what I was finding funny. He's just like, what are you all on about? You're doing a new army, Steve.
If you want to. Okay.
That's not how bullying works.
That's pretty much it. Thank you to everyone who's been listening to us for the last hour and a bit, an hour and a half. Sorry for the initial errors. Mike's had issues. It's not his fault. We've switched to this new system. Let us know what you think about it. If you're watching this after it's gone live, please leave a comment below and let us know if you prefer this with the chat on the side, or if you want us to go back to our previous layout. It'll be good to get. I don't really mind either way, to be honest. I'm just sitting and talking. So you let us know what you prefer after this goes through, and we can always do some sort of vote on it, and we'll go with whichever's voted. But there has to be a few. There can't just be one person saying one thing. Primaris White Scars, Sam. You could say that, Pink. You're in the chat. You're in the hangout, and you're typing.
I can be both.
Oh wow. Okay. Tori can much prefer this. Yeah, I mean, you can see us all at the same time. That's the bonus with this, and we also have the chat for anybody watching it afterwards. So thanks again, everybody who's thumbed up the video, liked the video, and joined us for the show. I know it's been a long one. Tomorrow we're going to have the Siege Studio interview with James, and Friday we're going to have the hobby hangout with Sean from Blue Table Painting, myself and Mike, and I'm probably going to get on with some Seraphon again because they need to get done. But check this out. Look what I did. I don't even know if this is going to show up. But look at that giant crystal-y thing.
That's looking pretty sweet.
Base colours and a
awesome.
wash. That's all it is. Just to get Rachel's army done so she can play more battle reports. Because she's obsessed. She's obsessed. Right, that's it. Thank you all for watching. Thank you to everyone who's made the free account on the website and made the premium account. There's a lot of people liking this new format, actually. We probably will just stick with this. Right. Credits are going up. That's going to be a standard. So we'll see you next time. Have a good one. And thank you everyone on the Hangout for joining. Thank you, Phil, for pretty much dying on the chat and still joining us with your beard present.
It was worthwhile. It was worth coming along.
Right. Credits. See you in a bit.
Bye guys.